Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jude. If you're new here, I'd love it if you subscribe. I'm going to be doing a review on a wonderful book that I read. I was just finishing my book and I went out for a wonderful drive. I hope the weather is nice where you're at. So stay tuned for a wonderful review on this book called Left to Tell. I first became aware of the author of Left to Tell, and her name is Immaculee Ilibagiza. And I just was so impressed when I saw her on Chris Stefanik's show called The Life You Were Made For. And I'm going to link that below because I really want you to hear for yourself her love and her enthusiasm, let alone her beautiful smile that she has. You'd never know that she went through so much horror as being a survivor of the 1994 Rwandan genocide. And from the moment that I heard her speak on Chris's show, I had to read Left to Tell, because I knew it was going to be a very difficult story of what she went through, but just hearing her speak about love and about forgiveness and mercy, even for those that killed all of her immediate family but one. She had a brother who was studying at university about 5 hours away, so he was safe. But the rest of her immediate family were killed, and she was the only daughter of a devout Catholic family of 6. And from a young girl, as early as in the 4th grade, when she was asked to stand up and tell the class if she was a Hutu or a Tutsi. These are 2 tribes that there were in Rwanda. And she didn't know what the meaning of that was. She had never known she was any different from any of her other classmates, any of other friends. And so from that moment, she knew that there was a discrimination that was against her tribe. In 1994, when Immaculee was 24 and she was studying at college, she came home during her Easter break. Her father had pleaded with her to please come home, that the family wanted to see her. And she wasn't sure. She had heard from the broadcasts that there was much unrest, but it wasn't until she came home that the horror within a day or two just took over her whole land. So the Hutu rebels came, and there was so much hate against her tribe, that they went from town to town and massacred everyone. And her father had insisted that she leave her home and her family to go to this pastor's house. And he was a Hutu pastor, and he hid her and 7 other women in a bathroom, which was hidden by a piece of furniture, because regularly the rebels came and inspected all of the houses in the area to make sure no one was hiding there. But these women stayed in this tiny bathroom, barely eating, never being able to stretch and stand up at one time because there just wasn't room. And Immaculee was very devout, but she, in these moments of horror, thinking many times that they were going to find and discover them, and just not knowing what had happened to the other members of her family, she grabbed onto her faith, which was the only thing that she had left. And she struggled. She really struggled with the feelings of hatred for those that were doing these terrible things. But she always came back to the point of forgiveness, the point of mercy. She and the 7 other women stayed for 91 days in that hidden room. So fast forward, the French had come in and they were setting up camps after that time, and she managed to flee from the pastor's home with the other women, and she ended up at this French camp and stayed there until she was able to go to one of the big cities, where she eventually got a job at the United Nations there. And then 4 years later, she was able to leave that country and come to the United States and work for the United Nations. So in 2007, she established the Lefttotell Charitable Fund, which helps support the Rwandan orphans. And that was always her mission. She had seen so many children that were left to die. Their parents were murdered, and they were 3 and 4 years old. And so that just struck so deeply in her heart that she wanted to give back. So I was so moved by this book. Now, there's so many parts in it where you're in horror because it's described what was done to the people in the villages as they were massacring, and it's awful. But I think it's so important never to forget these crimes, never forget the hatred that causes people. And it's contagious, and it was a domino effect. It started from the top, and people who were her friends, people who she grew up with, were murdering her family. And it just shakes you to think hatred is such a vile emotion. And in this time that we're going through, in any time, but in this time of unrest, we need to realize how dangerous bigotry is and hatred is, and realize it's up to us to change our thought processes, to really examine where are we at in our feelings. We can go about our lives and think, it's not me, I'm not living that sort of life. But I think this is such an eye-opener. So I highly recommend, as difficult as it is to read this story, she leaves you with such a sense of hope. And if somebody that has survived a horrifying experience like that could go through life and come out the other way, still believing in God. She clung to her rosary. Her father gave her his rosary, which she still prays with today. And she had that rosary for those 91 days in that locked room. And she prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And such a wonderful example of clinging to your faith, clinging to God, as hard as it was to try to say, what is the sense of all this that's happening? But she had to put the hate behind her, so much so that she was able actually to visit the prison where they were holding the man that murdered her father, and she was able to forgive him, to look him in the eye and say that I forgive you. So it's remarkable. So I highly recommend it. I will link it below, and go ahead and watch her interview also with Chris Stefanick, because it's powerful. And this is what good books do, is they keep us in touch with things that happen, real true stories that happen to people. But because of their faith, that they're able to rise above and go on and live a full life and be in service of others. So forgiveness and mercy are the two wonderful things that you'll take away when you read this book. So like and comment, have you read Left to Tell, and what did you think about it? So friends, all I'm saying is let go of your resentments. Let go of any grudges or resentments, because it only builds hatred in your heart. And that could be contagious to other people. We must be able to leave our grievances, go to God, and He will help heal us. So I bid you peace and love. And until next time, God bless.